In the stillness, beyond the noise of everyday life, there is a profound truth waiting to be discovered. Life is not defined by what happens to us, but by the meaning we assign to it. The challenges you face, the triumphs you experience, and even the moments of suffering are all invitations to find deeper meaning and purpose. This journey, the journey toward true prosperity, does not begin with the pursuit of material wealth or worldly success. It begins within you, in the quiet recesses of your heart and mind, where your deepest values, your true essence, reside. Meaning, as Viktor Frankl taught us, is the key to enduring life's hardships. It is in the way we choose to respond to life's circumstances that we discover the greatest depths of our soul. Prosperity, true, lasting prosperity, is not measured by the riches of the world, but by the richness of our inner lives. It is the quiet knowing that no matter what befalls us, we have the ability to find meaning, to create purpose, and to rise above the challenges with grace. In the face of suffering, we are given a choice, to give in to despair or to find meaning through it. This sacred moment is your invitation to choose meaning. You are invited to step beyond the limits of your past, beyond the restrictions that society may impose on you, and to create a life that is deeply aligned with your soul's purpose. Just as the most beautiful trees grow in the harshest conditions, so too can your soul flourish in the most challenging of circumstances if you choose to see your trials as opportunities for growth. This path you are about to embark upon is not one of rushing or striving, but of stillness and reflection. It is through quiet introspection that you will hear the whispers of the universe, guiding you toward your highest potential. The true nature of prosperity is not found in the hustle or the race for more. Instead, it is found in moments of deep silence and contemplation, where the essence of who you are can be felt most clearly. You may have been taught that success is a result of constant effort, a race to achieve, yet true success, true prosperity, is rooted in meaningful action that arises from deep reflection, from understanding the core of who you are and what you truly seek. It is in the stillness, in those moments of quiet introspection, that you connect with your soul's purpose and align with the flow of the universe. That as you move forward on this journey, remember that prosperity is not about striving for more, but about aligning with what already is. You already possess everything you need within you to create a life filled with meaning and purpose. The universe does not reward effort in the conventional sense, but instead, it rewards alignment with your deepest truths, with the purpose your soul has come here to fulfill. Embrace this journey as a sacred practice. Allow each step you take to be one of deep reflection and awareness. In this space of inner peace, allow yourself to be open to the lessons that life offers you. For in every experience, there is an opportunity for growth, for deepening your understanding of yourself and your place in the world. Let go of the idea of success as the world defines it. Let go of the expectations placed upon you. In this space of inner quiet, you will discover the truest form of abundancy, peace that comes from within, a peace that remains unshaken by external circumstances, a prosperity that does not depend on material accumulation but on spiritual alignment. So, as you begin this journey, step into it with reverence and humility. Let go of the noise, the distractions, and the pressures of the world. Instead, create the space to hear the voice of your soul. Trust in the wisdom that lies within, for it is in that wisdom that you will find your true power. The universe is always at work, guiding you toward your highest good. In the quiet of your being, you will find the strength to align with the divine flow, to find meaning in every experience, and to discover the true nature of prosperity. Chapter 1. Embracing the meaning of life. The search for meaning. The human experience is shaped by an unshakable pursuit, the search for meaning. Every person, at some point, encounters this quest, whether through suffering, joy, or the ordinary moments of life, but it is not always clear where this meaning resides. Life can often feel like a series of random events, overwhelming us with their complexity and unpredictability. However, as Viktor Frankl poignantly shared in his reflections, from the Holocaust, it is not the events themselves that define us, but rather the meaning we assign to them. This fundamental idea is at the heart of Frankl's teachings and the essence of his logotherapy approach. To understand this search for meaning, we must first confront a powerful truth. Life itself is inherently uncertain. No matter how hard we try to control or predict what happens to us, the reality is that we cannot always direct the course of events. Yet Frankl's groundbreaking realization was that even in the face of unbearable suffering, we retain the most sacred human freedom, the freedom to choose how we respond to life's circumstances. This response, this choice becomes the key to finding meaning and, ultimately, embracing a life of profound fulfillment. Frankl's experiences as a prisoner in Nazi concentration camps provided him with an intimate understanding of human suffering and its role in the search for meaning. Despite enduring unimaginable physical and psychological torment, he witnessed a powerful truth. Those who found meaning in their suffering were the ones who survived. The prisoners who could attach meaning to their experiences, whether through a sense of purpose or the hope of reuniting with loved ones, were able to endure unimaginable hardship. The others, those who lost all sense of meaning, were often the first to succumb to despair. This powerful lesson that meaning gives us the strength to endure hardship is not only relevant to those facing physical suffering, but also to the emotional and spiritual struggles that everyone encounters in life. We all face obstacles, challenges, and periods of intense emotional pain. These moments may come in the form of loss, failure, heartbreak, or even the profound experience of loneliness. But in every moment of suffering, there lies an opportunity to find meaning. The real question is, how will we respond? Will we allow ourselves to succumb to despair, or will we choose to find meaning in our experiences? In Frankl's view, meaning does not emerge from external circumstances. It is not something that can be handed to us by others or determined by our social standing, possessions, or accomplishments. True meaning arises from within, from our ability to reflect on our experiences, our values, and our connection to something greater than ourselves. In this sense, meaning is a creative act. We actively create it by reflecting on our lives and finding purpose in the smallest of actions and the deepest of challenges. The concept of focused prosperity that we seek in this audiobook mirrors Frankl's philosophy, but with a focus on spiritual and inner alignment. Prosperity is often seen as the accumulation of wealth, status, or external success. However, true prosperity transcends these material gains. It resides in the deep sense of peace and fulfillment that arises when we live in alignment with our core values and the purpose we have discovered within ourselves. This alignment brings us closer to a life of inner abundance, where external circumstances have less power over our happiness, and we become the architects of our own peace. This shift in perspective that prosperity is not something to be achieved externally, but something to be cultivated internally invites us to embrace the quiet power of meaning. It challenges the conventional notion that we must strive relentlessly to make it in the world. Instead, it calls us to reflect deeply on what matters most and to align our lives with these values, knowing that prosperity, in its truest form, will naturally follow. At the heart of Frankl's teachings lies an essential truth. The meaning we assign to life's experiences shapes our reality. Every moment, whether filled with joy or sorrow, is an opportunity to choose meaning. Even in the face of the greatest trials, we have the power to choose how we respond and what we learn from the experience. This freedom to choose is where our true power lies, and in this choice, we discover the strength to move forward with purpose. For many, the search for meaning may begin with a deep introspection. It may involve revisiting the values that shape our identity, reassessing our goals, and finding clarity in our beliefs. It requires silence, the space to listen to the inner wisdom that lies dormant within each of us. The noise of the world, with its constant distractions and demands, often drowns out this inner voice. But when we take the time to be still and listen to our heart, we begin to reconnect with the deeper meaning of our lives. This process is not always easy. It may require confronting parts of ourselves we have avoided, or coming to terms with difficult truths. But in facing these challenges head-on, we allow ourselves to grow. We give ourselves permission to move beyond the surface and dive into the depths of who we truly are. It is in these depths that we begin to understand the greater meaning of our lives, the purpose for which we were created, and the unique contribution we are meant to make in the world. As you reflect on your own journey, ask yourself, what is the meaning behind the challenges you face? What purpose can you find in your struggles? How can you transform your perspective to see even the most difficult experiences as opportunities for growth? This is the beginning of the path to focused prosperity, a path that does not depend on external success but on the inner clarity and purpose that arise from finding meaning in every moment. True prosperity is not about achieving more. It is about becoming more aligned with who we are, more connected to the world around us, and more present in each moment of our lives. As we embrace meaning, we create the foundation for a life that is rich not only in material wealth but in the deepest form of spiritual abundance. When we live in alignment with our purpose, prosperity flows naturally, and we begin to experience the world in a way that reflects the abundance within. The freedom to choose meaning. As we journey deeper into the understanding of meaning, we come to an essential realization: the freedom to choose is the most powerful gift we possess as human beings. Viktor Frankl's insights into this profound truth emerged during his unimaginable suffering in the concentration camps. While he and his fellow prisoners had no control over their external circumstances, they retained the freedom to choose. Their attitude toward those circumstances, this freedom, though seemingly small, became the most powerful tool for survival and spiritual growth. This idea is at the heart of what it means to live a meaningful life. We are not defined by the events that happen to us, but by how we respond to those events. The attitude we choose to adopt in the face of adversity, the meaning we assign to our suffering, and the purpose we derive from our struggles are what ultimately shape our lives. This is where true freedom lies, in the ability to choose meaning, even in the most difficult of situations. Frankl's ability to find meaning in the midst of suffering was not born from resignation or passivity. It was born from active engagement with his circumstances. He realized that even in the most brutal conditions, when life seemed devoid of hope, the human spirit had the capacity to choose its response. By focusing on the meaning of his suffering, Frankl was able to rise above the despair and create a sense of purpose that transcended the cruelty of his environment. This is the true power of choice, the ability to shape your inner world, regardless of the external turmoil. This power to choose is at the heart of focused prosperity. True prosperity is not about avoiding suffering or hardship. It is about learning to respond to life's challenges in a way that aligns with your deepest purpose. Meaning gives us the strength to navigate through life's obstacles, not by resisting them, but by embracing them with the understanding that every experience has value. Prosperity, in its truest form, is not about material wealth, but about an inner alignment with one's purpose. It is about living with intention, reflecting deeply on your experiences, and choosing meaning in every moment. In life, we often focus on what happens to us, the circumstances we find ourselves in, the people we encounter, and the situations we face. But Frankl's teachings remind us that the true power lies not in these external forces, but in our response to them. By shifting our focus from what is happening to us to how we can assign meaning to it, we reclaim our power. We begin to see each moment as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In choosing meaning, we choose freedom. We choose to be the authors of our own story. We are no longer slaves to external circumstances or the expectations of others. Instead, we become empowered to create a life that reflects our deepest values and purpose. This is the path to true prosperity, the realization that prosperity is not something to be chased or obtained, but something that arises naturally when we live in alignment with our authentic self. One of the most profound aspects of this choice is the realization that we can find meaning even in suffering. It is often in our most difficult moments that the deepest lessons are learned. We may face setbacks, failures, or losses that feel insurmountable, but if we can find meaning in those experiences, we transform them. We can see them not as obstacles, but as stepping stones on our path to spiritual and personal growth. By choosing to find meaning in our suffering, we rise above it, transforming it into a source of strength rather than weakness. Frankl's life demonstrates that the meaning of life is not something static or fixed, but something we actively create. Through our choices, each moment is an opportunity to choose meaning, to reframe our experiences, and to deepen our understanding of who we are and why we are here. This is the foundation of a life lived with purpose, a life that is deeply aligned with the principles of spiritual prosperity. When we live in alignment with meaning, prosperity begins to flow naturally. We are no longer chasing external markers of success. Instead, we are cultivating a deep sense of fulfillment from within. Our actions become more intentional, our choices more guided by purpose, and our lives more aligned with the flow of the universe. Prosperity is no longer something we strive for, it is something we embody. It is a way of being, a state of alignment, and a reflection of the depth of meaning we assign to each moment of our lives. The choice to find meaning in life is not a one-time decision, it is a continual process. Every day, we are presented with opportunities to choose how we will respond to life's challenges. Whether it is a difficult situation at work, a personal setback, or a moment of sorrow, we always have the freedom to choose how we respond. We can choose to see these moments as opportunities for growth, or we can allow them to defeat us. The choice is always ours. It is through this continuous process of choosing meaning that we begin to see the world differently. We no longer see challenges as burdens, but as opportunities to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. We begin to experience life as a gift, each moment imbued with purpose and meaning. This is the path to focused prosperity. Realization that true prosperity comes not from external success, but from the inner peace and fulfillment that arise from living a meaningful life. That as you reflect on your own life, remember that you have the freedom to choose how you respond to every experience. Whether joy or sorrow, triumph or failure, each moment holds the potential for meaning. It is through this choice that you unlock the door to a life of spiritual prosperity, a life that is rich not in material wealth, but in purpose, fulfillment, and alignment with your soul's deepest truth. Chapter 2: The Power of Attitude and Responsibility. The last of the human freedoms. In every situation, no matter how dire or overwhelming, we are presented with a profound truth. The last of the human freedoms is the ability to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances. This powerful insight, drawn from Viktor Frankl's own experiences in the concentration camps, illuminates the essential human capacity for growth, dignity, and meaning. No matter the trials we face, no matter the suffering we endure, we always retain the freedom to determine how we will respond. This freedom is not just an intellectual concept, it is the bedrock of resilience, personal empowerment, and, ultimately, spiritual prosperity. Frankl's profound understanding of this truth came through his own suffering. During his time as a prisoner, he was stripped of everything: his home, his family, his possessions, and his basic human rights. Yet, he discovered that even when everything else is taken from us, we still possess the ability to choose how we perceive and react to the world around us. In a world of suffering, pain, and unimaginable loss, Frankl realized that our attitudes are the one thing that no one can take away. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose meaning. In the midst of life's harshest realities, the importance of this attitude cannot be overstated. When we shift our focus from external circumstances to the way we choose to engage with those circumstances, we empower ourselves in ways that are often hidden from view. Our attitudes become the lenses through which we interpret the world. They determine the meaning we assign to each experience, shaping how we move through life and how we meet its challenges. This is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is a practical, transformative tool that allows us to reframe any situation in a way that fosters growth, purpose, and prosperity. Take, for example, the simple act of facing adversity. It is easy to fall into despair when we feel powerless against the forces of life, but when we recognize that we have the power to choose our attitude, everything changes. Adversity becomes an opportunity to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our purpose. It is through this shift in perspective that we find spiritual prosperity, not by avoiding difficulty, but by using it as a tool for inner growth. Prosperity is not about avoiding hardship. It is about learning to find meaning within it and using it to build a deeper connection with our true selves. In this sense, the power of choice is inherently tied to the concept of responsibility. Frankl speaks of responsibility as the ability to respond to life's challenges in a way that aligns with our values, our beliefs, and our sense of purpose. It is not enough to passively accept whatever comes our way. True freedom lies in the responsibility to choose how we will respond. This responsibility is not something imposed upon us. It is a privilege that empowers us to live authentically and with purpose. Responsibility, in Frankl's view, is not merely about fulfilling external obligations or meeting the expectations of others. It is about responding to life with awareness and intent. It is about taking ownership of our inner world and actively shaping our experiences through our choices. This is where the power to transform our lives lies, in our ability to choose and in our willingness to accept responsibility for those choices. When we accept responsibility for our responses, we become the authors of our own story. We no longer see ourselves as victims of circumstance, but as active participants in our journey of growth. This approach to responsibility is at the heart of focused prosperity. Prosperity is not something that comes to us by chance or external effort alone. It arises when we take full responsibility for our lives, our actions, our thoughts, and our emotional responses. It is through this sense of responsibility that we create a life that reflects our highest values and deepest desires. When we take responsibility for our attitudes, our relationships, and our responses to the world, we align ourselves with the universal flow of abundance. This is where true prosperity resides, not in the things we accumulate, but in the way we choose to live each day with purpose and meaning. Finding meaning in suffering. The deeper we go into the understanding of how to live with meaning and purpose, the more we realize that suffering is an inseparable part of life. It is something we cannot avoid, no matter how hard we try. Whether it is physical, emotional, or psychological, suffering is a universal experience that touches every human being. But Frankl's insights bring us to a profound realization. Suffering, when approached with the right attitude, can become a powerful catalyst for finding deeper meaning. Frankl's time in the concentration camps taught him that suffering does not have to be meaningless. In fact, he argues that life can still be meaningful, even in the face of suffering. The critical question is not whether we experience suffering. This is inevitable, but how we respond to it. Our response determines whether we allow suffering to overwhelm us or whether we use it to unlock deeper understanding and spiritual growth. Frankl believed that the meaning of suffering lies in how we approach it. If we choose to see suffering as something that defines us, something that diminishes our capacity for joy or purpose, we will likely fall into despair. However, if we choose to find meaning in suffering, we transform it into something that propels us forward. In the concentration camps, Frankl noticed that those who found meaning in their suffering had a much higher chance of survival. This meaning could come from a variety of sources: love for a family member, the hope of fulfilling a future goal, or a sense of duty to others. The lesson here is clear. Suffering does not have to diminish us. Instead, it can be an invitation to rise to a higher level of personal responsibility and spiritual awareness. By choosing to find meaning in our suffering, we reclaim our power. We begin to understand that our suffering is not a random or meaningless event, but an opportunity to deepen our engagement with life, to reflect on our own resilience, and to find purpose in the most difficult of circumstances. This is a transformative perspective. Suffering becomes a teacher, not something to be avoided or resented. It can be a source of strength if we allow ourselves to see it as part of a greater process of growth and evolution. Frankl's own ability to survive the concentration camps was not due to physical strength alone, but because he chose to find meaning in the suffering he endured. He chose to live with purpose, even in the most unbearable conditions. This is the ultimate power of the human spirit, to create meaning even in the darkest of times. Similarly, focused prosperity is not about avoiding difficulty. Prosperity does not come from a life without obstacles. It comes from our ability to find meaning in the obstacles we face. Every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every moment of suffering is a chance to reflect on what truly matters and to align our lives with our deepest values. This alignment creates true prosperity, which is not merely the accumulation of wealth, but the cultivation of a life rich in meaning, purpose, and resilience. This approach to suffering is also an invitation to embrace responsibility. We are not powerless in the face of hardship. In fact, we are called to take full responsibility for how we respond to suffering. Responsibility is not just about fulfilling duties or obligations. It is about choosing our response to every situation, how we react to pain, disappointment, and loss. By choosing to find meaning in these experiences, we are taking responsibility for our emotional and spiritual growth. This is a crucial shift in mindset. Instead of viewing suffering as something that happens to us, we begin to see it as an opportunity for us to transform. When we accept responsibility for the meaning we assign to suffering, we are empowered to take control of our inner world. We are no longer victims of our circumstances, but active participants in the creation of our own meaning. In this way, suffering ceases to be an obstacle and becomes a tool for spiritual growth. The truth is, life is full of suffering. This cannot be denied. But the way we choose to engage with that suffering determines the course of our lives. We can choose to allow suffering to define us negatively, to limit our potential, or we can choose to find meaning in our pain, which empowers us to rise above it. In this process, we are not diminishing the reality of our suffering, but rather transforming it into something that enriches our lives. This transformation requires a deep level of personal reflection and introspection. It requires us to question our beliefs, our attitudes, and our responses to life's challenges. It requires us to be fully present with ourselves, to accept that life is sometimes painful, and to choose to find meaning in that pain. When we do this, we shift from being passive recipients of life's circumstances to becoming active creators of our experience. By taking responsibility for how we respond to suffering, we allow ourselves to move forward in life with purpose and clarity. We are not bound by our past pain or our present challenges. Instead, we are liberated by the knowledge that we have the ability to choose how we experience life. This is the heart of true freedom, the freedom to choose our response, to assign meaning to our experiences, and to create a life that reflects our highest values. When we embrace this freedom, we are well on our way to discovering true prosperity. Prosperity is not about accumulating wealth or avoiding difficulty. True prosperity is found in living a life of meaning, in choosing our response to every experience, and in finding purpose in the challenges we face. It is through this deep alignment with meaning that we manifest a life filled with abundance of peace, fulfillment, and spiritual richness. Chapter 3: Logotherapy, a path to spiritual alignment, discovering the meaning of life, in the quest for meaning. Viktor Frankl's logotherapy offers profound insights into the human condition. Logotherapy, a therapy focused on finding purpose and meaning in life, is based on the belief that the primary drive of human beings is not pleasure or power, but the search for meaning. It offers a counterpoint to traditional psychoanalysis, which focuses on unconscious drives, instead suggesting that our mental health and well-being depend not on escaping pain or gaining pleasure, but on finding meaning in our experiences. Frankl, through his own harrowing experiences, came to understand that even in the worst of circumstances, human beings retain the capacity to choose their attitudes. His approach to logotherapy emphasizes that the search for meaning is what gives life its ultimate value. It is through finding meaning in our suffering, in our relationships, and in our work that we can navigate the challenges of life and create a fulfilling existence. At the heart of logotherapy is a simple yet profound idea. Man's search for meaning is an ongoing process, one that must be actively engaged with and shaped by each individual. This is not something that can be handed to us from the outside, but something that must come from deep within. Frankl's own reflections on life in the concentration camps taught him that even when stripped of everything else, a person's ability to choose their own meaning can be a source of strength for those who are seeking a path toward spiritual prosperity. This principle becomes vital when we understand that life's meaning does not reside in external circumstances, but in our ability to assign purpose to them. We begin to see how spiritual wealth is generated not through accumulation but through internal alignment with our values and purpose. Spiritual prosperity is born from this understanding that our lives have value, regardless of external appearances. When we live in alignment with our inner truth, logotherapy provides us with tools to begin the process of meaning-making. One of the central tenets of logotherapy is the idea that, while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control our response to those events. This freedom to choose our attitude allows us to see the world differently. Instead of viewing events as mere occurrences, we can choose to find meaning in them, transforming what might seem like random, painful experiences into valuable lessons that guide us toward deeper understanding and growth. In spiritual practice, this principle is reflected in the idea that we are not victims of our circumstances. Just as Frankl demonstrated in his work, we are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we respond to what happens. This active engagement with life is what fosters growth. It is in our response that we unlock meaning, not as a static goal to achieve, but as a dynamic process of discovery. For example, consider how we respond to difficult relationships or setbacks. It is easy to view these experiences as failures or sources of frustration. Yet, when we apply logotherapy's principles, we begin to ask, what can I learn from this? How can this experience help me understand myself better or contribute to the greater good of others? This shift in perspective transforms suffering into a source of growth and adversity into a gateway to purpose. This is the path to spiritual prosperity. By taking responsibility for our reactions, choosing meaning in each moment, and aligning our lives with our deepest values, we begin to experience true wealth, not material, but spiritual. The riches we gain from this alignment are everlasting, not fleeting, for they are rooted in purpose, fulfillment, and inner peace. The meaning of life through responsibility and freedom. As we delve deeper into the transformative power of logotherapy, we come to the crucial understanding that responsibility and freedom are the twin pillars upon which the search for meaning rests. Frankl's approach does not merely suggest that meaning is found in positive experiences or pleasant circumstances. Instead, it proposes that meaning is crafted through our willingness to bear responsibility for our own lives, actions, and reactions. It is in choosing to take responsibility for our experiences that we begin to align ourselves with our greater purpose and move closer to our deepest potential. Responsibility in the logotherapeutic sense is not about fulfilling societal obligations or adhering to external expectations. It is about a personal, spiritual responsibility, the responsibility to choose our own attitude and meaning in any given situation. This act of choosing is what distinguishes us as human beings. It is what allows us to transform our experiences, even the most painful ones, into opportunities for growth and self-discovery. When we take responsibility for our experiences, we empower ourselves to craft the meaning that will guide us through life. Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps showed him that those who were able to find responsibility in the midst of suffering were the ones who survived and thrived. For Frankl, the act of taking responsibility meant choosing to find purpose in every experience, even in the face of extreme hardship. Even in the most dehumanizing conditions, Frankl saw how some individuals found a sense of meaning through their relationships, their dreams, and their inner strength. This is the essence of freedom, the freedom to choose how we respond to life, even when everything else has been stripped away. It is essential to understand that this freedom is not something external to us, nor is it something that depends on our environment. Frankl's belief in freedom of choice was rooted in the idea that our inner world is ours to shape, regardless of external circumstances. True freedom is not found in having the ability to control what happens around us, but in having the capacity to shape our internal world, our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, according to our values and purpose. This inner freedom is the foundation of spiritual prosperity, the realization that we are the architects of our own lives, no matter the circumstances. Responsibility, then, is not a burden, it is a gift. It is the opportunity to create a life that reflects our highest values, to align our actions with our deepest beliefs, and to find meaning in every situation. When we choose to live with this responsibility, we no longer see ourselves as passive victims of life's circumstances. Instead, we become active creators of our experiences, weaving meaning into every action and every moment. This is the path to spiritual wealth, aligning our actions with our soul's purpose. This realization calls us to reflect on how we respond to the challenges in our own lives. Do we view obstacles as roadblocks that prevent us from achieving success, or do we see them as opportunities to find meaning, to grow, and to deepen our connection with ourselves and with the universe? When we approach life with the mindset of responsibility, we begin to see every experience, whether positive or negative, as a chance to reflect, learn, and move closer to our true purpose. In logotherapy, meaning is not something to be discovered externally, but something to be created internally. It is something that arises from within us as we choose to engage with life on a deeper level. This is the essence of the freedom to find meaning, the ability to transform every experience into a source of purpose and alignment. The key to spiritual prosperity lies not in avoiding suffering or hardship, but in embracing them as opportunities to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. Through the practice of logotherapy, we are encouraged to take responsibility for our inner world, our choices, and our responses to life's circumstances. In doing so, we create a life that is rich with meaning, a life that reflects our highest potential and deepest values. This is not a life that depends on external success or material wealth, but a life that is rooted in purpose, clarity, and alignment with the greater flow of the universe. Frankl's teachings remind us that meaning is not a destination, but a journey. It is something that must be cultivated and nurtured throughout our lives. It requires constant reflection, conscious choice, and a willingness to embrace responsibility in all aspects of life. When we choose to live with meaning, we begin to experience true freedom, the freedom to shape our lives according to our values. the freedom to respond to challenges with grace and wisdom, and the freedom to experience prosperity that arises from living authentically. Chapter 4. The Sacred Silence of Prosperity. Embracing silence as a tool for transformation in our fast-paced, noisy world. The concept of silence is often misunderstood. We tend to view silence as the absence of sound or activity, a void to be filled with distractions. However, in the quest for spiritual prosperity, silence is not an empty space. It is a powerful and sacred tool for transformation. It is within silence that we are able to connect with our deepest selves, hear the whispers of our soul, and align with the greater flow of the universe. Viktor Frankl, in his own profound reflections, emphasized the importance of inner stillness, of the ability to listen to the quiet voice within that transcends the clamor of external influences. Silence, in the context of logotherapy, is not merely a physical absence of sound, but a state of mind, a mental and emotional space where we can reflect, gain clarity, and reconnect with the meaning of our lives. This sacred silence allows us to align our inner world with our true purpose, creating a foundation upon which prosperity can grow. In the rush to achieve and accumulate, we often overlook the power of quiet reflection. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention through technology, social media, and societal expectations. Yet, it is in the stillness, in the moments of pause and introspection, that we truly find ourselves. It is in this space that we begin to hear the deeper truths of our existence, the truths that cannot be heard amidst the noise of the world. Frankl's experience in the concentration camps forced him into a kind of solitude and silence that many of us cannot fully imagine. But in this forced stillness, he found a profound connection to his inner purpose and the meaning of life. He discovered that the quieter the space, the more clearly one could hear the guidance of the soul. It was in these moments of silence that he was able to reconnect with his personal values and find a sense of meaning even amidst the harshest suffering. The power of silence lies in its ability to strip away the distractions and illusions of the external world, leaving us with only the truth of our own being. When we are silent, we are invited to reflect on our lives, not in judgment, but in peaceful awareness. We become aware of our thoughts, our desires, and the deeper yearnings of our hearts. In this space, we can ask ourselves, what is my true purpose? What is the meaning of my life? What is the source of my deepest fulfillment? In the practice of spiritual prosperity, silence becomes an essential ritual. It is through silence that we cultivate inner peace and align ourselves with the flow of abundance. Prosperity is not a force to be chased or exerted through constant striving. Instead, it is something that arises naturally when we live in alignment with our true self. Silence offers the space needed to tune into that alignment and to connect with the quiet power that resides within. Just as the trees grow silently in the forest, their roots hidden deep within the earth, so too does true prosperity grow in the silence of our hearts. It is in the quiet moments that we find the clarity to discern our deepest desires and the courage to follow our true path. By embracing silence, we open ourselves to the greater mysteries of life and invite the wisdom of the universe to guide us toward our highest potential. When we cultivate the practice of silence, we begin to see the world differently. We no longer rush through life, seeking external validation or constantly striving for more. Instead, we learn to live in the moment, appreciating the beauty of each breath, each step, and each experience. This sense of peace and alignment allows prosperity to flow into our lives, not as something to be acquired, but as something to be received. The practice of silence is not about retreating from the world, but about creating a sacred space within ourselves where we can connect with our truest nature. It is in this space that we find the courage to face our deepest fears, confront our limiting beliefs, and step into the full potential of who we are. Through silence, we gain the strength to live authentically and to create a life that is aligned with our soul's purpose, manifesting prosperity through stillness in the realm of spiritual prosperity. Silence holds an extraordinary key. Stillness is the soil in which abundance is sown. Prosperity, in this sense, does not come from relentless effort, constant striving, or accumulation. It arises from being deeply attuned to the present moment. It is through the practice of stillness that we reconnect with the essence of who we are and what we are meant to do. Silence is not simply the absence of noise, it is the presence of awareness, and within this awareness, we find the clarity necessary to manifest the abundance that lies dormant within us. Frankl's philosophy teaches us that in the most oppressive circumstances, where all external forms of success are stripped away, meaning and purpose still flourish. This idea mirrors the concept of spiritual wealth and inner treasure that is not bound by the material world. It is in stillness that we gain the clarity to hear our inner guidance, to understand our purpose, and to begin manifesting the life that reflects our highest self. Manifestation through stillness is not about force or willpower. It is about being present with the flow of life, listening attentively to the quiet voice of intuition, and allowing the universe to guide us toward what is rightfully ours. When we align ourselves with our deepest desires and the universal flow of energy, prosperity flows to us naturally. It is in this space of inner stillness that we stop chasing external validation and instead begin to radiate abundance from within. This is a paradox. In our world, we are taught to chase success, to work harder, to strive for more, to be constantly moving forward. Yet, true prosperity is born from the stillness that allows us to be who we are, without the need to prove ourselves to anyone. It is when we cease the endless pursuit and simply allow life to unfold in alignment with our deepest truths that we begin to experience true abundance. In this stillness, we become receptive. We create space within ourselves for new opportunities, new ideas, and new connections to enter. It is as if the universe, recognizing our openness and receptivity, begins to send us the very things we need to fulfill our purpose. Frankl understood this. He recognized that even in the bleakest of moments, there was always the potential for growth and transformation. When we are still, when we embrace silence, we give ourselves permission to grow in the direction of our highest potential. In practical terms, this practice of stillness and silence can take many forms. Meditation is one way to access the profound power of silence. By sitting in stillness, focusing on our breath, and letting go of mental distractions, we create a space where our inner wisdom can be heard. Similarly, reflection, taking time to pause, reflect, and listen, can help us align with our deeper purpose. The act of simply being still and tuning in to our inner selves creates an environment in which prosperity can grow. This is not to say that external actions are unnecessary. Action is a natural extension of stillness. When we connect with the silence within, we become more attuned to the actions that are in alignment with our deepest desires. Stillness leads to inspired action, not action that is driven by external pressures or societal expectations, but action that arises from a place of deep inner knowing and peace. As Frankl demonstrated, even in the face of unimaginable suffering, it was not external circumstances that determined a person's fate, but the meaning they chose to attach to those experiences. Stillness allows us to cultivate this same inner strength, to create meaning in every situation, and to manifest the abundance that comes with living in alignment with our soul's purpose. When we embrace stillness, we begin to see the world, not as a place to be conquered, but as a space to be navigated with wisdom and clarity. We stop reacting impulsively to the circumstances around us, and instead, we respond consciously, choosing our actions based on inner guidance rather than external pressure. This is the essence of prosperity through stillness, the realization that we are not here to chase, but to receive and to align with the natural flow of abundance. The practice of silence, and the stillness that comes with it, also nurtures our spiritual health. It reconnects us with the present moment, the only time in which we can truly create. In this space, we stop living in the past or worrying about the future. We learn to appreciate the here and now, which is the only place where true prosperity can manifest. Stillness brings us back to the present moment, where we are reminded that prosperity is not something we have to strive for. It is something we already possess. Ultimately, silence and stillness offer the most profound forms of abundance. In these moments of quiet reflection, we find clarity, peace, and the strength to continue our journey of growth and transformation. As we learn to embrace the sacred silence, we unlock the door to prosperity, knowing that it is within us, ready to unfold at the perfect time. Chapter 5. Overcoming the existential vacuum. The void within the human experience. At some point in every person's life, there may arise a feeling that is not easily named, but is universally felt: a deep, internal emptiness. This emptiness is not simply the absence of joy, but a profound sense of lack, a feeling that something is missing. Viktor Frankl, through his work and his personal experience, identified this as the existential vacuum, a sense of meaninglessness that haunts the human soul when we feel disconnected from our deeper purpose. It is the feeling of being adrift, of having no clear direction, and of struggling to understand why we are here. This existential vacuum can affect anyone, regardless of their material wealth or social status, and it is particularly prevalent in modern society, where external success often does not lead to internal satisfaction. The existential vacuum is a symptom of a deeper malaise that Frankl observed in the concentration camps. He noticed that those who found meaning in their suffering, whether through relationships, future goals, or their connection to something greater, were the ones who survived and thrived. Those who could not find meaning, who were overwhelmed by the sense of emptiness, often gave up hope and succumbed to despair. Frankl's own survival was rooted in his ability to find meaning even in the most extreme circumstances, and he carried this lesson forward in his work, teaching that the absence of meaning is what leads to spiritual impoverishment. In today's world, the existential vacuum manifests in a different form. While we may not face the same dire conditions as Frankl's fellow prisoners, many people still experience a profound sense of emptiness, despite the apparent abundance around them. We live in a society that places a heavy emphasis on material success and acquiring things, achieving status, and accumulating wealth. Yet, despite these external markers of success, there is a growing sense that something is missing. More and more, people report feelings of disconnection, isolation, and a lack of purpose. This is the existential vacuum at work. The outer world may seem to offer us everything we need, but the inner world remains untouched, unfulfilled, and empty. The critical mistake many make is to believe that the existential vacuum can be filled with external things, more possessions, more accomplishments, or more validation. While external success may bring temporary satisfaction, it does not address the deeper, more profound emptiness that lives within. This is where true prosperity lies, not in the things we accumulate, but in our ability to create meaning in our lives. Frankl believed that meaning is the foundation of spiritual health, and when we cannot find meaning, we are left feeling empty, unfulfilled, and adrift. In his teachings, Frankl emphasizes that meaning does not come from avoiding suffering or difficulty. Meaning comes from how we respond to our circumstances, how we make sense of the experiences that come our way, and how we choose to live our lives in accordance with our inner truth. It is when we fail to find meaning in our experiences that we fall into the existential vacuum. The vacuum arises from a lack of purpose, from the feeling that life is happening to us, rather than being something we actively shape and create. The existential vacuum is not just a psychological or emotional condition, it is a spiritual condition. It is the result of a disconnect between our inner selves and the external world. It happens when we lose touch with our deepest values, our personal truths, and our sense of higher purpose. Without this connection to meaning, life feels aimless. We chase after external goals, believing they will bring us fulfillment, but they often leave us feeling empty, unsatisfied, and even more lost. To overcome the existential vacuum, we must first acknowledge it. We must recognize the feeling of emptiness and the yearning for meaning that arises within us. This acknowledgement is the first step toward healing, as it allows us to turn inward and reflect on the deeper questions of life. What is my purpose? Why am I here? These questions are not simply intellectual pursuits, they are calls to spiritual awakening. It is only when we engage with these questions honestly and deeply that we can begin to fill the vacuum. The next step in overcoming the existential vacuum is to take responsibility for our lives. Frankl taught that we are not victims of our circumstances. While we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control our response to those events. We have the power to choose how we perceive our lives, how we interpret our experiences, and how we respond to the challenges we face. This freedom to choose is what allows us to find meaning, even in the most difficult moments. When we take responsibility for our response to life's challenges, we take back our power. We are no longer passive observers of our lives. We are active participants, co-creators of our own meaning. The power of responsibility is tied to personal agency, the ability to make decisions that align with our values and our deeper purpose. When we take responsibility for our lives, we stop waiting for the world to give us meaning or happiness. Instead, we begin to create meaning through our actions, our choices, and our commitment to living authentically. This is the essence of spiritual prosperity, the realization that we are the architects of our own lives. We are not passive recipients of life's circumstances. We are creators of our reality. capable of shaping our future through the meaning we attach to each moment. In the process of overcoming the existential vacuum, we must also practice self-reflection. This involves asking ourselves the hard questions, questioning the assumptions and beliefs that guide our lives, and being honest about what truly matters. Self-reflection allows us to uncover the deeper truths within, and it is through these truths that we begin to find meaning. As we connect with our inner selves, we reconnect with the source of meaning that resides within each of us. Overcoming the existential vacuum requires inner work, deep and committed practice of finding and creating meaning. It is a process that demands courage and dedication, but it is also the path to true fulfillment and spiritual prosperity. When we find meaning in our lives, we no longer feel empty. Instead, we feel whole, aligned, and at peace with who we are. The vacuum is filled not with external distractions, but with the richness of purpose, the fulfillment that comes from living authentically, and the peace that arises from being in alignment with our deepest truths. The journey toward overcoming the existential vacuum is not a passive one. It is an active process of seeking, creating, and aligning our lives with meaning. In a world that often encourages us to seek fulfillment through external achievements or fleeting pleasures, the true path to overcoming the void is rooted in inner reflection, spiritual engagement, and a deep understanding of one's personal purpose. Meaning is the antidote to the existential vacuum. It is the key to finding fulfillment and prosperity in all aspects of life. As we work to overcome the vacuum, we first come face to face with the emptiness that can sometimes feel overwhelming. It's the moment when we realize that no amount of material wealth, social recognition, or worldly accomplishments will ever fill the space inside us that yearns for a deeper connection to life. It is a profound realization, often accompanied by discomfort, but it is also the gateway to a life of purpose and alignment. When we face the emptiness, we are faced with a choice: to remain in the void, or to seek meaning in the very experiences that challenge us. Frankl's teachings emphasize that meaning does not come from the external world, but from the internal space we cultivate through reflection, action, and connection to something greater than ourselves. In his work, Frankl often highlighted three primary ways in which individuals could find meaning: through work, through love, and through suffering. Work, in Frankl's view, is not simply a way to earn a living, but an opportunity to give of ourselves and contribute to something larger. When we approach our work with purpose, when we choose to infuse it with meaning, it becomes a vehicle for self-expression and spiritual growth. Frankl found that many people were able to endure extreme hardship because they had a purpose they were passionate about, whether it was the hope of reuniting with loved ones, creating something meaningful, or fulfilling a larger mission. In modern times, work can also serve as a source of meaning. When we align our professional lives with our core values and passions, work becomes more than a transaction. It becomes an act of creation, a way to contribute to the world around us. Focused prosperity, in this sense, is not found in success or achievement, but in the alignment of our actions with our deepest purpose. When we view work as a calling rather than just a job, we start to see it as an avenue for growth, learning, and contribution. In this way, work becomes not a source of stress or anxiety, but a spiritual practice that brings us closer to our authentic selves. Another profound source of meaning, Frankl believed, was through love, the deep connections we form with others. Love is the bridge that connects us to another person, allowing us to transcend our own individual experience and enter into a shared reality of compassion, understanding, and care. Frankl observed that even in the most desperate situations, those who were able to focus on their loved ones or hold on to the memory of a relationship had a far greater chance of surviving and finding inner peace. Love, however, is not just about romantic relationships. It can be found in the connection to family, friends, community, and even humanity as a whole. In spiritual prosperity, love becomes a source of strength, grounding us in the belief that our lives are not just our own. To love and be loved is to find purpose, to see ourselves as part of a greater whole, contributing to something larger than our own existence. By choosing to give and receive love, we fill the existential vacuum with a sense of belonging and connection, which is the true antidote to loneliness and isolation. Perhaps the most profound insight that Frankl offers is that meaning can also be found in suffering. While it may seem counterintuitive, Frankl argues that suffering, when approached with the right attitude, can lead to personal growth and transformation. This does not mean that we seek out suffering or glorify pain, but rather that we choose to find meaning in it. In the face of hardship, we have a choice. We can allow suffering to define us in negative ways, or we can choose to find purpose through it. When we face adversity, we are given the opportunity to deepen our resilience, learn new lessons, and grow spiritually. Meaning in suffering is about transforming pain into a source of strength, seeing it not as something to be avoided but as a tool for personal evolution. Frankl's survival in the concentration camps was a testament to this. He chose to see his suffering as a way to help others, to hold on to the belief that he would one day be able to share his message with the world. His suffering became a source of meaning, not because it was enjoyable, but because he chose to find purpose in it. In our own lives, we can apply this principle by reframing our challenges. Instead of viewing suffering as an enemy, we can approach it as an invitation to transform. By choosing to find meaning in our challenges, we not only survive them, but we transcend them. This approach turns adversity into a tool for spiritual growth, our way to deepen our connection to our purpose, our inner strength, and the greater flow of life. The process of filling the existential vacuum requires both courage and dedication. It demands that we move beyond the external noise and distractions and engage deeply with our own souls. We must be willing to confront the emptiness within and actively create meaning. This is not a passive process, but one that requires intent and reflection. As we fill the vacuum with meaning, we begin to experience a profound shift. No longer are we chasing external validation or attempting to find fulfillment through material means. Instead, we find a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment that comes from living in alignment with our true self. The existential vacuum begins to dissolve, replaced by a life rich with purpose, love, and connection. Meaning is the antidote to the existential vacuum. It is the answer to the questions that arise when life feels meaningless. Through work, love, and suffering, we begin to fill the void with the richness of spiritual prosperity. And in this process, we find that the true wealth lies not in what we acquire from the outside world, but in what we cultivate within, the meaning we create, the love we give, and the resilience we develop. Chapter 6. The Meaning of Suffering and the Path to Transformation. Finding meaning in pain, the tapestry of life. Suffering is an inevitable thread. No matter how hard we try to avoid it, pain, loss, and hardship are woven into the human experience. It is easy to view suffering as something to be feared, to resist it, or even to wish it away. Yet, Viktor Frankl's profound insight suggests that suffering is not just an obstacle to be avoided, but a profound source of meaning and growth. It is through the meaning we attach to our suffering that we are able to find transformation and ultimately experience spiritual prosperity. Frankl's time in the concentration camps taught him that even in the most unimaginable suffering, there is the potential for growth, resilience, and meaning. He observed that the prisoners who found a way to attach meaning to their suffering were the ones who survived. This meaning might have come in many forms: the hope of reuniting with loved ones, the pursuit of a greater cause, or the inner strength to endure for the sake of a higher purpose. Those who could see suffering as a part of their journey of transformation, rather than as an endpoint, were able to transcend it. The key to this transformation lies in choice. We may not be able to control the suffering we experience, but we always have the power to choose how we respond. When we choose to find meaning in our suffering, we begin to see it as an opportunity for growth, rather than something that diminishes us. It is in this choice that we empower ourselves. For meaning is not something that is given to us, it is something we create, even from our darkest moments. This perspective is essential to understand as we embark on the path of spiritual prosperity. True prosperity does not come from avoiding pain or hardship. Prosperity is found in our ability to find meaning in our suffering, to transform adversity into a tool for personal growth. When we do this, we no longer live in fear of suffering. We understand that it is an inevitable part of life's journey, and instead of resisting it, we learn to engage with it purposefully. Suffering becomes a catalyst for transformation, propelling us toward our highest potential. Consider the most challenging experiences in your own life. Have they defined you negatively, or have they propelled you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and your purpose? It is in the difficult moments that we are often forced to confront our deepest fears, our limiting beliefs, and our emotional scars. These moments are opportunities to heal and transform, to shift our perspective and see the deeper meaning within them. Frankl believed that, through suffering, we have the chance to create meaning that is uniquely ours. While the pain itself may never go away, the meaning we attach to it shapes our journey. Through suffering, we are invited to grow not in spite of the pain, but because of it. This insight is the foundation of the transformative power of suffering. When we learn to find meaning in our pain, we begin to change our relationship to it. We no longer see ourselves as victims of circumstances. Instead, we become empowered participants in our own transformation. Transcending pain through purpose. Suffering, when understood through the lens of meaning, becomes a powerful catalyst for transformation. Viktor Frankl's experiences, both as a prisoner in Nazi concentration camps and as a therapist, demonstrate that our relationship with suffering has the potential to shape our lives in profound ways. Rather than seeing suffering as something to be endured passively, Frankl suggests that we can actively choose to find purpose in our pain. It is through this choice that suffering becomes an agent of personal growth and spiritual prosperity. One of the most powerful aspects of suffering as a source of transformation is that it forces us to confront the deepest parts of ourselves. When faced with adversity, we are often confronted with feelings of helplessness, vulnerability, and fear. These emotions, though painful, reveal the areas of our lives that require healing, the beliefs that need to be challenged, and the parts of our psyche that need to be transformed. Suffering forces us to look inward, to reassess our values, and to examine the choices we have made and the paths we are on. It is in this deep self-reflection that we begin to see the potential for transformation. When we look at suffering from this perspective, it becomes less about the pain itself and more about what we do with the pain. It is through our response to suffering that we find our strength and our sense of meaning. Frankl's central message is that we have the freedom to choose our attitude in any situation. Even in the face of unimaginable suffering, we can choose to find meaning. This act of choice is what enables us to transcend our pain and use it as a stepping stone toward personal growth. The process of transcending pain through purpose is not instantaneous. It is a journey, one that requires patience, reflection, and resilience. The transformation that comes from suffering does not diminish the pain, but it shifts the way we experience it. Instead of being crushed by the weight of our circumstances, we begin to see them as opportunities for growth, as moments that challenge us to rise to a higher level of self-awareness and spiritual strength. A profound part of this journey is the understanding that we are not defined by our suffering. Suffering does not have to be the final word on who we are. It is a part of our experience, but it is not the sum of our existence. By finding meaning in our suffering, we transcend its power over us. We choose to define ourselves by the way we respond to hardship, not by the hardship itself. This shift in perspective is essential to living a life of spiritual prosperity, one that is not dependent on external circumstances but rooted in our inner strength and purpose. In the context of focused prosperity, we see that the key to manifesting abundance in our lives lies in our ability to find meaning in everything, including our suffering. True prosperity is not the absence of difficulty. It is the ability to engage with life's challenges in a way that aligns us with our deeper purpose. When we do this, we create an internal state of alignment, peace, and resilience that naturally attracts prosperity. It is this inner alignment with our soul's purpose that enables us to navigate life with grace and fulfillment, regardless of external circumstances. Consider how, in your own life, moments of suffering or adversity have led to growth. Have they pushed you to explore deeper aspects of yourself? Have they revealed strengths you never knew you had? When we allow suffering to be a teacher, we move from victimhood to empowerment, from helplessness to action, and from pain to peace. This transformation is the path to true prosperity. By embracing suffering as a source of meaning, we open ourselves to greater potential. We stop running from discomfort and instead learn to sit with it, reflect on it, and transcend it. In doing so, we find that suffering, rather than being something to fear or avoid, becomes an important aspect of our spiritual journey. It is a path to personal evolution, a path that, though often difficult, ultimately leads to the most profound forms of spiritual wealth. In conclusion, suffering is not the end of the road, but rather a part of the process of personal and spiritual growth. When we learn to find meaning in suffering, we transform it into a source of strength, wisdom, and resilience. This is the essence of spiritual prosperity, not the absence of hardship, but the ability to grow through it and to find purpose in every moment of life's journey. In this way, suffering becomes a powerful tool for transformation, one that shapes us into the people we are meant to be and leads us to a life of true fulfillment and peace. Chapter 7. Manifestation through the quiet power of choice, the power of choosing meaning in the journey toward spiritual prosperity. We come to understand that everything in our lives begins with a simple yet profound act, the choice we make. Viktor Frankl's work illuminates the transformative power of choice, especially in the face of suffering and hardship. The ability to choose our response, to choose meaning, is perhaps the greatest power we possess as human beings. This power transcends external circumstances and aligns us with our deepest values and purpose. Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps showed him that our response to external events is what defines us. While we cannot control the suffering that comes our way, we always have the power to choose how we respond. This choice is not passive, it is an active engagement with life that shapes our experience and determines our future. Choosing meaning, in Frankl's words, is the essence of living a purposeful life. No matter what happens to us, we can decide to find meaning in every moment, in every circumstance, and in every relationship. This freedom to choose meaning, this inner power, is central to manifestation. True prosperity is not something we chase, but something we align ourselves with. It begins within. When we choose meaning in our lives, we begin to create the life we desire. This is not to say that we will always get what we want, or that we will never face hardship. Rather, it means that we align ourselves with the universe in a way that allows us to flow with life, to move through challenges with grace, and to manifest abundance naturally. The process of manifestation through choice starts with the pre-realization that we are not victims of our circumstances. We are the creators of our reality, and our reality is shaped by the meaning we assign to it. This is not simply a mental exercise, it is an energetic process. Our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions shape the way we perceive the world and the actions we take within it. The meaning we assign to our experiences determines the energy we bring to them, and ultimately, the outcomes we experience. Frankl teaches us that meaning does not come from outside of us, is something we create from within. When we choose to see the world through the lens of meaning, we align ourselves with a higher purpose. We stop reacting to life's challenges and begin to engage with them in a way that reflects our deepest truths. This is the true power of choice, the ability to choose meaning and to allow that meaning to shape the reality we experience. This process of aligning with meaning is a form of manifestation. When we choose meaning, we begin to transform our inner world, and this transformation is reflected in the outer world. As we align with our soul's purpose, we begin to attract the experiences, relationships, and opportunities that support our growth and fulfillment. This is the essence of spiritual prosperity, not chasing success, but aligning ourselves with the flow of the universe and allowing abundance to come to us naturally. Manifestation through choice is not rooted in forceful action or relentless striving, but in the quiet power of alignment. As we continue to explore the concept of spiritual prosperity, it becomes clear that the path to fulfillment is not one of external accumulation, but one of inner harmony and alignment with the divine flow of the universe. This alignment is achieved through conscious choice, the decision to live in accordance with our soul's purpose and the deeper meaning we assign to our experiences. Frankl's teachings help us understand that life is not a mere series of random events. Rather, it is a dynamic interaction between our inner world and the outer world, shaped by our beliefs, thoughts, and actions. Manifestation occurs when we align ourselves with the flow of life and begin to live intentionally, with purpose. It is not about forcing outcomes or trying to control every detail of our lives, but about trusting in the natural unfolding of our journey. This trust allows us to step into a state of flow where we are not struggling against the current of life, but moving with it, responding to each moment with grace and clarity. In this state of alignment, we begin to attract the people, opportunities, and experiences that support our growth and purpose. Manifestation is not about external circumstances, but about our internal state. When we choose meaning in our lives, when we align ourselves with our deepest values, we send out a vibration into the universe that attracts what we need for our journey. Prosperity flows naturally when we stop resisting the flow of life and instead embrace the present moment with trust and openness. This process of alignment is an ongoing practice. It requires awareness and intentionality in every moment. Each thought, each action, and each choice we make is an opportunity to align more deeply with our purpose. The power of choice is not limited to grand decisions or milestones. It is evident in the small, daily choices we make. Every thought we think, every word we speak, and every action we take sends out energy that shapes our reality. By choosing meaning in each moment, we consciously direct our energy toward the things that align with our highest good. For instance, consider a challenge you are facing. Instead of viewing it as an obstacle, you can choose to see it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to learn, and a means to deepen your understanding of yourself. By assigning meaning to that experience, you are aligning yourself with the flow of spiritual prosperity. The way you choose to respond to challenges determines not only the immediate outcome, but also the trajectory of your life. Each choice leads to another, a series of decisions that ultimately shape the life you live. This alignment with purpose also means that we must let go of attachment to specific outcomes. While it is natural to have desires and goals, the key to manifestation lies in trusting the process. When we let go of the need to control everything, we open ourselves to receive the abundance that is already available to us. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means trusting the universe to provide what we need when we need it. True prosperity comes from the trust that everything we seek is already on its way to us, and that we must remain open and receptive to it. The choice to align with divine flow is also a choice to release fear, the fear that we are not enough, that we are unworthy, or that we cannot achieve our desires. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to manifestation, as it keeps us focused on lack and scarcity rather than abundance. When we choose to step into the flow of life, we are also choosing to release fear and to trust that we are already aligned with the abundant energy of the universe. This trust is what allows us to create and manifest from a place of inner peace and spiritual alignment. This process of choosing meaning and aligning with the universe's flow is deeply connected to the understanding that we are co-creators with the divine. Manifestation is not a solo journey, it is a partnership with the universe. We bring our intentions, our purpose, and our inner wisdom, while the universe provides the opportunities, the people, and the resources we need to fulfill our destiny. When we trust this partnership, we move through life with greater ease, knowing that we are supported at every step of the way. Manifestation through choice is also a practice of gratitude. Gratitude is the key that unlocks the abundance of the universe. When we choose to focus on the blessings we already have, we align ourselves with the energy of abundance. Gratitude shifts our focus from lack to plenty, from limitation to possibility. The more we express gratitude for what we have, the more we create space for even greater abundance to flow into our lives. By choosing meaning, by aligning with our soul's purpose, and by trusting in the divine flow of life, we unlock the true prosperity that has always been available to us. This prosperity is not about what we accumulate externally, but about the peace, fulfillment, and purpose we experience from within. It is the realization that when we choose to live in alignment with our higher purpose, the universe responds by bringing us exactly what we need: people, opportunities, and experiences that support our growth. Chapter 8. The last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose our attitude. At the heart of Viktor Frankl's philosophy lies a powerful realization. The freedom to choose our attitude is the last and most sacred of the human freedoms. This freedom transcends all external conditions and remains unshaken, even in the most extreme circumstances. Frankl's own experience in the concentration camps revealed this essential truth. Even when everything is taken from us, when all external factors seem beyond our control, we always retain the ability to choose how we respond. This freedom is not merely theoretical or abstract. It is a real, practical tool that each person can use, regardless of their situation. It is the power to choose how we perceive and respond to our circumstances. Frankl's teachings highlight that our response to suffering, adversity, and hardship defines us, not the events themselves. It is through our attitudes, our perspectives, and the meaning we attach to our experiences that we create our reality. Frankl's discovery in the concentration camps was nothing short of revolutionary. Even in the face of unimaginable suffering, he found that those who survived were often not those who had the greatest physical strength, but those who could still find meaning in their lives. Some found meaning in love, others in hope, and others in the desire to fulfill a larger purpose. The ability to find meaning in suffering and the choice to maintain a sense of purpose. even in the darkest of times, became Frankl's greatest insight. This choice, the freedom to choose one's attitude, became the foundation of his life's work and the core of logotherapy, his existential approach to therapy. The significance of this freedom cannot be overstated. We often believe that our lives are shaped by external events, by the circumstances we face, the people we encounter, or the hardships we endure. However, Frankl teaches us that we have a choice. We can choose how we perceive and respond to these external factors. This is not to say that suffering is to be ignored or that it is easy to transcend. It simply means that we have the power to shape our inner world, regardless of the outer world's challenges. For many, the choice to maintain a positive attitude in the face of adversity can seem impossible. How can we choose our attitude when the weight of the world is upon us? How can we remain hopeful when all seems lost? The answer lies in purpose. Frankl's work shows that when we are connected to a sense of purpose, when we know why we endure, we can endure anything. Purpose gives meaning to our suffering, transforming it from something to be avoided into a vehicle for growth and self-discovery. Purpose is what allows us to find hope in the darkest of moments. This freedom to choose our attitude is integral to spiritual prosperity. In our modern world, prosperity is often associated with material wealth, social status, or external achievement. But true prosperity, the kind that brings lasting peace and fulfillment, comes from our ability to choose how we respond to life's challenges. It is the peace that arises when we realize that we are not defined by our circumstances, but by the attitude we take toward them. This shift in perspective is the key to unlocking true, sustainable prosperity, prosperity that is rooted in meaning, not material wealth. The power to choose our attitude also brings with it the realization that we are not victims. This is perhaps the most liberating insight. We are not victims of our past, our circumstances, or the choices of others. We are active participants in our own lives, responsible for the meaning we assign to every experience. We are empowered to create our own meaning, even in the face of adversity. This inner power gives us a profound sense of freedom and control over our lives. In spiritual prosperity, we do not seek external success or material gain as an end goal. We seek alignment with our deeper purpose, and through this alignment, prosperity flows naturally. Prosperity is not something we chase, it is something we cultivate within ourselves. When we choose our attitude and respond to life with meaning, we naturally attract the experiences, relationships, and opportunities that are in alignment with our true purpose. This is the law of spiritual alignment. When we live in accordance with our deepest values, the universe conspires to bring us what we need. This process of aligning with our purpose and choosing our attitude is a continual practice. Each day offers us a new opportunity to choose how we will respond to the world around us. In every moment, we have the power to choose meaning. We can choose to see life as a journey of growth and learning, or we can see it as a series of random events. We can choose to be grateful for what we have, or we can focus on what we lack. The freedom to choose is what gives us the power to create a life of purpose, fulfillment, and prosperity. The freedom to find meaning, the profound freedom that Viktor Frankl refers to. The freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances is not simply a philosophical concept. It is, for Frankl, the ultimate source of human dignity and the key to navigating life's most difficult trials. It is the ability to transcend external limitations and connect with a deeper sense of purpose. This inner freedom is the foundation of spiritual prosperity and the path to discovering true meaning, even in suffering. Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps showed him that while we cannot control our external circumstances, we always retain the freedom to decide how we respond to those circumstances, even in the most brutal conditions, where every aspect of his physical and emotional being was under assault. Frankl discovered that the human spirit retains its ultimate sovereignty when it comes to choosing how to face suffering. This choice is the key to surviving adversity. It is the one freedom that cannot be taken from us. Frankl's single quote, his realization was that the way we respond to suffering determines the meaning we find in it. When faced with extreme pain or hardship, we can choose to succumb to despair, bitterness, or hopelessness, or we can choose to search for meaning in the experience. Frankl found that those who could find meaning in their suffering were far more likely to endure and emerge from their trials with a greater sense of purpose and strength. This is not to say that suffering is easy or should be sought out. but rather that it can be transformed into a source of strength when we choose to engage with it meaningfully. Frankl believed that meaning can be found in all experiences, even the most painful ones. This is where his philosophy diverges from more traditional views on suffering, which often see pain as an obstacle to be avoided or eliminated. For Frankl, suffering itself becomes a potential source of growth. When we find meaning in our suffering, we transform it from something that diminishes us into something that empowers us. It becomes a part of our spiritual journey, a means by which we deepen our connection with life, with others, and with ourselves. The idea that meaning can be found even in the darkest of circumstances is not about diminishing the pain of suffering, but about reclaiming control over how we experience it. This perspective allows us to see suffering as a process that can lead to personal transformation, rather than something that simply defines or limits us. Frankl's experience in the concentration camps demonstrates this truth in its rawest form. Even in the face of ultimate suffering, we have the power to choose how we engage with it. This freedom to choose meaning also offers us the chance to move beyond the role of victimhood. Often, when faced with hardship, we fall into the trap of seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance. This mindset keeps us locked in a cycle of passive suffering, waiting for our situation to change rather than actively engaging with it. By choosing meaning, we shift from being victims to being active participants in our own lives. We become empowered, not by our circumstances, but by our ability to choose how we experience and respond to them. This is the core of spiritual prosperity, the recognition that we do not need to wait for the world to give us meaning or fulfillment. We create meaning from within, and in doing so, we shape our reality. By choosing to respond to life's challenges with purpose, we transform the circumstances that would normally overwhelm us into opportunities for personal growth. In this process we find true freedom not only from external circumstances, but from the inner chains that limit our growth. Choosing meaning is not something that happens once and is then completed, it is an ongoing daily practice. Every moment of life presents us with the opportunity to choose how we will respond. Whether faced with a small challenge or a major crisis, we always have the power to choose meaning. This is the freedom that Frankl speaks of, the ability to choose how we respond to life's experiences, and by doing so, to create a life of purpose and fulfillment. In embracing this freedom, we step into a life of alignment with our deeper values, our purpose, and our soul's calling. We are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we choose to engage with what happens. This choice, this freedom is the pathway to true spiritual prosperity, which does not lie in external success or wealth, but in the ability to find meaning in every experience, and to live with purpose and clarity. Chapter 9. Living with Purpose. The essence of purpose in life. Viktor Frankl's philosophy is rooted in the belief that purpose is the driving force behind every human life. Purpose is not simply an external goal to achieve. It is the very essence of why we wake up each morning and strive through the challenges life throws at us. For Frankl, it was through the discovery of meaning in life that individuals could endure the most extreme suffering and find a sense of fulfillment. Regardless of their circumstances, his experience in the concentration camps, where the external world had stripped away everything, revealed to him that the search for purpose was a defining characteristic of the human spirit. On logotherapy, purpose is considered the essential foundation for mental and emotional well-being. Purpose provides clarity, direction, and resilience when we face hardship. Without it, life can feel empty, directionless, and filled with suffering that has no meaning. Frankl's writings emphasize that finding and living with purpose is not optional, but a vital aspect of the human experience. When we lack purpose, we fall prey to the existential vacuum, that sense of emptiness that occurs when we are detached from our deeper truths and goals. Purpose serves as the antidote to this vacuum, helping us navigate the challenges of life with clarity and strength. Purpose is not always something grand or monumental. It doesn't have to involve changing the world or accomplishing extraordinary feats. Frankl found meaning even in the smallest things, like helping others in the camps, or simply holding on to the hope of reuniting with loved ones. Purpose can be found in the relationships we cherish, the work we do, or the values we hold dear. It is not the scale of the purpose that matters, but the authenticity and alignment of that purpose with our inner truths. Finding purpose, however, is not always straightforward. It often requires introspection, deep reflection, and a willingness to confront the questions of life that that we sometimes avoid. Why are we here? What is our true calling? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they are essential in the process of finding meaning and purpose. As Frankl suggests, even in the most difficult of circumstances, we can find meaning by choosing to live with purpose. Purpose is also intimately connected with responsibility. We are responsible for choosing our own purpose and living according to that purpose. No one else can define our purpose for us, and no external force can impose meaning onto our lives. We are the ones who decide what matters. Frankl's experience and his teachings on logotherapy tell us that the freedom to choose purpose is one of the greatest gifts we have, and it is through this freedom that we define our existence. Finding meaning in everyday life. Once we recognize the significance of purpose in our lives, the next challenge is understanding how we can cultivate and sustain that purpose. Purpose is not something that comes and goes, it is something that must be actively nurtured and lived out in our everyday lives. It is easy to think of purpose as something monumental, something we only need to focus on when we face a crisis or adversity. However, Frankl's teachings reveal that purpose is found in the mundane moments of daily life, in the small acts of kindness, the work we do, the relationships we maintain, and the way we choose to engage with the world. Purpose is not simply about achievement, but about alignment. It is about living in harmony with our deepest values and the truth of who we are. Purpose is what gives direction to our actions. Without it, our lives become fragmented, scattered, and aimless. Frankl emphasized that people who live with purpose, even in the face of hardship, have an innate sense of fulfillment and strength. They don't wait for happiness or success to find them, they create it through their choices and actions. Purpose is the compass that guides us through life's challenges, enabling us to navigate adversity with strength and resilience. In Frankl's view, the most important aspect of living with purpose is the commitment to something beyond ourselves. It could be a sense of responsibility toward others, a personal mission, or a higher calling. When we connect to something greater than ourselves, whether it is love, faith, or service, we transcend our own suffering and limitations. Frankl's personal survival was rooted in his unwavering commitment to helping others find meaning in their suffering, as well as his belief that his life would have meaning again if he could one day share his experiences with the world. This larger sense of purpose is what kept him going, and it's the same with all of us. Purpose is what allows us to endure and overcome life's obstacles. Finding meaning in everyday life doesn't always mean striving toward an idealized version of success. Instead, it means engaging fully with whatever life brings our way, approaching each moment with a sense of intention and integrity. Even the most ordinary tasks, like taking care of family, working on a project, or contributing to a community can be acts of purpose if approached with the right mindset. Purpose doesn't always involve grand gestures. It can be as simple as showing up, being present, and giving our best effort to whatever we do. The process of finding purpose is ongoing, often requiring introspection and mindfulness. It involves a constant reflection on what matters most to us, how we align our actions with those values, and how we live with integrity and authenticity. Frankl's own ability to find purpose in the most harrowing of circumstances didn't come from some grand external achievement. It came from his inner commitment to living with meaning, no matter what he faced. This inner commitment is what allowed him to transcend suffering and find a deeper, richer experience of life. To live with purpose means to be deeply connected to our sense of meaning, to create and live out the life we truly desire. Purpose is not something we find outside of ourselves. It is something we create through the way we engage with the world. It is about making choices that align with our core values and priorities, and it requires the courage to follow our inner compass even when the world seems to be pulling us in different directions. When we live with purpose, we feel grounded and connected, no matter what challenges arise. We are no longer just surviving life, we are actively engaged in it, making the most of every moment and finding meaning in all things. Chapter 10. The Role of Love and Connection. Love as a source of meaning. Viktor Frankl's journey through the horrors of the concentration camps illuminated one of the most profound truths about the human experience. Love is one of the most powerful sources of meaning in life. Frankl observed that, even in the most dehumanizing and brutal circumstances, those who found a sense of purpose through love were often able to endure and survive. Love gave them a reason to live, a reason to persist, and a reason to find meaning in the face of suffering. Love, in Frankl's view, is not merely an emotion or a romantic attachment. It is a force that transcends individual relationships and connects us to something greater than ourselves. It is a way of seeing the world, of engaging with others, and of discovering meaning in our lives. Frankl believed that love is a reflection of the ultimate meaning in life, a connection to others that allows us to transcend our personal suffering and find fulfillment. One of the central ideas in Frankl's logotherapy is that we find meaning not only through our own personal achievements or goals, but also through our relationships with others. The love we give and receive becomes a powerful source of purpose. Love connects us to something larger, grounding us in a shared human experience that goes beyond the individual self. Frankl, even in the concentration camps, was able to find meaning through his deep love for his wife, whom he was separated from during his internment. In his moments of deepest despair, Frankl held on to the thought of her, imagining her presence and the love they shared. This love kept him going, even when everything else seemed lost. Love is also a source of strength. It allows us to endure hardship and find purpose in even the most difficult circumstances. The connection we feel to others, whether through family, friends, or the broader human experience, gives our lives meaning beyond the immediate moment. Frankl describes this as the ability to transcend our own suffering by focusing on something greater than ourselves. Love, in its various forms, allows us to rise above the pain of our own existence and find solace in knowing that we are part of something more significant, more profound. In the context of spiritual prosperity, love becomes a central pillar. True prosperity is not found in the accumulation of material wealth, but in the richness of our relationships, in the depth of our connections with others, and in the love we give and receive. Prosperity arises when we align ourselves with the power of love, recognizing it as the guiding force that allows us to navigate life's challenges and to create meaningful, fulfilling lives. Love, as the bridge to greater meaning. Love is not only a source of personal meaning but also a fundamental pathway to connection, the key that links us to others and to the world around us. In the context of Frankl's logotherapy, love is seen as a powerful force that elevates our lives beyond the mundane and connects us to something universal. Love is not limited to romantic affection. It is the deep bond we share with others, whether it is through family, friendship, community, or humanity as a whole. It is through love that we can access a higher purpose, a meaning that transcends individual suffering and connects us to a collective experience of life. Frankl believed that love has the power to transform suffering into a meaningful experience. It gives us a reason to endure, to persevere, and to find purpose even in the darkest of times. He often spoke of love as a transcendent force, one that allows us to connect with the deeper aspects of life. Love provides a sense of belonging, offering us the opportunity to serve others and to experience the joy of giving and receiving. This connection, grounded in love, offers a source of strength and meaning, especially when facing hardship. Frankl's own experience demonstrated that love helps us transcend our immediate pain. He often thought of his wife during his time in the concentration camp. While physically separated from her, the love they shared provided him with a sense of connection, purpose, and hope. It became a guiding light in his darkest moments. He was able to imagine her, feel her presence in his heart, and allow her love to sustain him. This connection to her, even through the absence, gave him a reason to keep going and to endure the suffering of the camp. This concept of love, as a transcendent force, is central to spiritual prosperity. In the pursuit of prosperity, we often focus on external achievements or material wealth. However, true prosperity is found in the depth of our relationships and in the love we cultivate with others. When we live with love as our guiding principle, we open ourselves to a life of connection and fulfillment. Prosperity in this sense is measured not by what we acquire, but by the love we give, the relationships we nurture, and the meaning we create through these connections. Frankl also emphasized that love is not just about receiving, it is about giving. True love is an act of service, where we seek the best for others, often without expecting anything in return. This selfless nature of love allows us to transcend our own suffering and connect with something larger than ourselves. It brings meaning not only to our own lives but to the lives of those we interact with. By giving love, we not only elevate others but also enrich ourselves, creating a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment. When we approach life with a foundation of love and connection, we start to see the world differently. We no longer see people as obstacles or sources of frustration, but as partners in the shared human experience. Each individual becomes a reflection of the greater whole, and through our connections, we find greater meaning in our lives. Love creates a sense of community, a shared sense of purpose that is essential to the human experience. It is through this connection that we experience the fullness of life. Love also allows us to heal. When we experience emotional pain, loss, or hardship, love acts as a healing force. It provides comfort, understanding, and a sense of companionship. During difficult times, Frankl's personal example highlights the fact that love is often the greatest source of resilience. When we love and are loved, we are reminded of our worth, of our place in the world, and of the meaning we have to offer. Love is the thread that binds us together, making us stronger and more capable of enduring life's challenges. In the context of spiritual prosperity, love is the foundation for abundance. It is through love that we experience the richness of life, the fullness of connection, and the depth of meaning that cannot be attained through material success alone. By nurturing our relationships, by offering love selflessly, and by embracing the connections we share with others, we unlock the true wealth that life has to offer. This is the prosperity that arises from living with purpose, with love, and with a deep sense of connection to the world around us. Chapter 11. Transcending Adversity, Part 1. The strength found in overcoming. The journey through life is not without its challenges. In fact, adversity is an inevitable part of the human experience, and it is often during the most difficult times that we are given the opportunity to grow and transform. Viktor Frankl's teachings demonstrate that adversity, when met with the right attitude, becomes a powerful source of strength and meaning. It is through our response to challenges that we shape our character, deepen our understanding of ourselves, and align with our higher purpose. Frankl's time in the concentration camps taught him a profound lesson about human resilience. While external circumstances may be beyond our control, the way we respond to adversity is something we can choose. Frankl observed that those who were able to find meaning in their suffering were the ones who were able to survive and endure. Meaning transforms suffering into strength, and it is through this process that we transcend adversity. Transcending adversity does not mean avoiding pain or pretending that challenges do not exist. It means choosing to find purpose and meaning even in the midst of hardship. When we face adversity, we are often forced to confront our deepest fears, our limitations, and our emotional wounds. These experiences are uncomfortable, but they are also opportunities for growth. Frankl believed that it is in these moments of pain and suffering that we can discover the greatest opportunities for transformation. The concept of transcending adversity is a powerful part of spiritual prosperity. True prosperity is not found in the absence of challenges, but in our ability to respond to those challenges with strength, courage, and a deep sense of purpose. Prosperity is not about avoiding difficulty, but about learning to navigate adversity with resilience and grace. It is through finding meaning in hardship that we are able to create a life of deep fulfillment, one that is not defined by external circumstances, but by the strength and wisdom we gain from our experiences. Frankl often spoke about the importance of personal responsibility in the face of adversity. He emphasized that we are responsible for how we respond to the challenges in our lives. This responsibility is not a burden, but a freedom, the freedom to choose our attitude, our perspective, and our course of action. Even when life presents us with extreme difficulty, we retain the power to choose meaning in the situation. This choice is what enables us to transcend adversity, to rise above it, and to emerge stronger and wiser. Transforming suffering into growth. Adversity, in Frankl's view, is not something to be feared, but something that, when approached with the right attitude, can lead to personal transformation. It is the moment of greatest pain and suffering that often provides us with the opportunity to reconnect with our inner strength and to redefine our sense of purpose. Frankl's own survival in the concentration camps was rooted in his ability to find meaning in suffering, to transform pain into purpose, and to use his experiences as a catalyst for spiritual growth. To transcend adversity, we must first acknowledge it for what it is, a part of life. Suffering is an inherent aspect of the human experience, but it does not have to define us. How we choose to engage with suffering is what determines whether it becomes a source of growth or a force that overwhelms us. When we face adversity with the mindset that it holds meaning and opportunity, we open ourselves up to transformation. This is the essence of transcending adversity, seeing it not as something to be avoided or resisted, but as something that can propel us forward on our journey of personal and spiritual evolution. Frankl often spoke about the power of choice in the face of adversity. In the most extreme situations, such as his experience in the concentration camps, Frankl understood that the freedom to choose our response was the one thing that could not be taken from him. Even when he had nothing left, no family, no possessions, and no hope for a future, he could choose how to respond to his situation. This freedom, Frankl argued, is the essence of human dignity. In our darkest moments, we retain the power to choose our response, to find meaning in our suffering, and to make the conscious decision to transcend the pain and rise above it. One of the greatest challenges in transcending adversity is the human tendency to resist pain. Pain is uncomfortable, and it is natural to want to avoid it or escape from it. But resisting pain often leads to more suffering in the long run. The key to transcending adversity is not to resist or suppress our emotions, but to acknowledge them, sit with them, and then choose how to move forward. Meaning comes from engagement, not avoidance. When we engage with our suffering directly, when we choose to face it head-on, we allow it to become part of our personal growth. Frankl's concept of tragic optimism is particularly relevant here. Tragic optimism is the belief that even in the face of suffering, one can still find meaning and purpose. It is the art of being able to see life in its entirety, with all of its pain and challenges, and yet still find a sense of hope and optimism. Tragic optimism does not deny the reality of suffering. Rather, it acknowledges that suffering is a part of life's fabric and that meaning can be found even in the most painful experiences. Through this lens, adversity becomes a stepping stone to deeper understanding. It is in facing our darkest moments that we often discover what we are truly capable of, our capacity for love, for compassion, for resilience, and for growth. When we allow ourselves to fully engage with our suffering, we discover a strength within ourselves that we may not have known existed. This strength is not born from avoiding adversity, but from choosing to move through it with purpose and meaning. This process of transcending adversity is deeply connected to spiritual prosperity. Prosperity in life does not come from the absence of difficulty, but from the ability to navigate those difficulties with grace and purpose. When we find meaning in suffering, when we engage with life's challenges with courage and resilience, we unlock a spiritual abundance that transcends material wealth. True prosperity is not something we achieve externally, but something we cultivate from within, by living in alignment with our deepest purpose, values, and truths. Frankl's teachings remind us that life is not about avoiding suffering, but about choosing how we will respond to it. When we take responsibility for our response to adversity, we reclaim our power. We choose meaning, and in doing so, we transcend suffering. By choosing meaning in our suffering, we transcend its power over us. We no longer become defined by the pain we face, but by the strength and resilience we gain through it. Chapter 12. The Eternal Quest for Meaning. Seeking meaning in the everyday. The search for meaning is a timeless and universal quest. From the moment we begin to engage with the world, we seek to understand our place in it, our purpose, and the significance of our actions. Viktor Frankl's exploration of this quest in his life and work shows us that meaning is not something we simply stumble upon. It is something we actively create through our choices, actions, and relationships. Frankl's central thesis in logotherapy is that the primary drive in human beings is not pleasure or power, but the search for meaning. This search is not limited to the major milestones of life or the significant moments of crisis. In fact, the quest for meaning is most often found in the small, everyday experiences. It is found in the way we engage with others, the work we do, the choices we make, and the way we respond to life's inevitable challenges. In Frankl's own life, meaning was often discovered in the most ordinary of moments, whether through the bond he shared with his wife, the work he did as a therapist, or the lessons he learned in the concentration camps. Meaning was not something that was bestowed upon him by others or by external circumstances. It was something he created through his responses to the world around him. This is a powerful lesson for us all. Meaning is not passive. It is something we actively cultivate in every moment of our lives. The quest for meaning requires that we look inward, that we reflect on our own values, our core beliefs, and our deeper purpose. But it also requires that we look outward, that we engage with the world and others in ways that are aligned with our truth. It is through this combination of inner reflection and outward action that we create a life that is rich with purpose, fulfillment, and meaning. In spiritual prosperity, meaning is the foundation of everything we do. It is the compass that guides our actions, decisions, and relationships. Without meaning, we may find ourselves drifting through life, disconnected from our deepest desires and disconnected from others. But when we engage with life through the lens of meaning, every moment becomes an opportunity for growth and connection. The search for meaning is often tied to struggle. When we face challenges or adversity, it is easy to feel as though life has no meaning. Yet, it is precisely in the face of difficulty that we are called to dig deeper into ourselves and find purpose. Frankl's teachings remind us that we can choose to find meaning even in suffering. Suffering does not have to be a dead end. It can be a pathway to greater understanding and growth. This is where true meaning is often discovered, when we find a deeper connection to our inner selves and to the world around us through our responses to pain and hardship. Living a life aligned with meaning, the quest for meaning is not just a fleeting or temporary search. It is an ongoing journey that shapes the way we approach life, our relationships, and the challenges we face. Viktor Frankl's philosophy teaches us that living with meaning is not a passive act, but an active process that we engage in every day. It is through conscious choices, reflection, and alignment with our inner values that we create a life of profound purpose and fulfillment. Frank's concept of responsibility is essential in understanding how we live meaningfully. According to Frankl, we are not passive recipients of life's experiences. Rather, we are active participants in the creation of meaning. We are responsible for the way we respond to the events and circumstances of our lives. Even in the most difficult situations, we have the power to choose how we will react, what meaning we will assign to our experiences, and how we will grow from them. Frankl's life in the concentration camps demonstrated that, even in the most dehumanizing conditions, the freedom to choose our attitude and response is our ultimate power. Living a life aligned with meaning requires us to live authentically, in accordance with our deepest truths and values. It means that we don't simply go through the motions of life, but rather engage with it fully, knowing why we are doing what we are doing and how it fits into our larger purpose. Frankl often emphasized that meaning is individual. It cannot be imposed by others, nor is it something to be discovered outside of ourselves. Meaning is something we create within. It is deeply personal and shaped by our own experiences, values, and the way we choose to respond to life. In his work, Frankl often pointed out that meaning is dynamic, not static. It is not something we find once and then hold on to for the rest of our lives. Instead, meaning is an ongoing process that unfolds throughout our lives. It evolves with our experiences. We grow, learn, and change. The way we find meaning at one stage of our life may not be the same way we find meaning at another. The eternal quest for meaning is not about finding one fixed answer or a singular definition of purpose. It is about being open to the journey, remaining present in each moment, and constantly exploring how our actions, relationships, and challenges align with our deeper truths. This active engagement with meaning in every moment is what creates true prosperity. Prosperity, in this context, is not about external wealth or social status. It's about creating a life rich with purpose. It is through meaningful action, deep relationships, and the courage to face adversity that we experience true fulfillment. Living with meaning is what gives our lives depth, connection, and a sense of fulfillment that cannot be measured by material success. It is through this deeper alignment with our purpose that we discover the true abundance of life. In practice, living a life aligned with meaning requires that we consciously cultivate purpose in all that we do. Whether it's the work we do, the relationships we maintain, or the way we engage with the world around us, we must ask ourselves, what is the deeper purpose of this moment? How does this action align with my values and my higher calling? It's through this kind of reflection that we create a life of meaning, a life that is not merely about external achievements, but is deeply rooted in our own values, passions, and desires. Frankl's philosophy also teaches us that meaning is closely tied to the love and connection we experience with others. To live a meaningful life is to recognize the deep bond we share with others, whether in our families, friendships, or communities. Love is not just an emotional experience. It is a source of purpose that transcends the self. When we love, we align with a higher purpose, one that connects us to the world and to something larger than ourselves. This is why relationships, romantic, familial, or platonic, are integral to our search for meaning. Through love, we find connection, purpose, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. In conclusion, the eternal quest for meaning is not a singular pursuit, it's an ongoing process that requires constant reflection, choice, and alignment. It is a quest that asks us to engage deeply with life, to create meaning in every action, and to stay connected to what truly matters. When we live with meaning, we open ourselves to the richness of life and to the fulfillment that comes from being aligned with our deepest values. This, in turn, leads to spiritual prosperity, the kind of prosperity that is not measured by material wealth, but by the depth of connection, purpose, and love that we cultivate throughout our lives. Chapter 13. The liberation of finding meaning, the ultimate freedom in the exploration of meaning. Viktor Frankl reveals the profound concept of freedom, the idea that no matter how dire our circumstances may be, we always have the ultimate freedom to choose our response. This idea is one of the most empowering aspects of logotherapy. Frankl's time in the concentration camps proved to him that even when every external aspect of life is stripped away, the inner freedom to choose how we respond to suffering, pain, and adversity remains intact. This freedom, the freedom of choice, is not only a theoretical construct, it is a living reality that we experience in our daily lives. True freedom is not found in external conditions, in wealth, social status, or power, but in our capacity to choose meaning in every moment. Whether we are facing hardship, loss, or disappointment, we always have the freedom to choose our attitude, and this choice is the ultimate power we possess. Frankl's reflections teach us that even in the face of the most overwhelming suffering, the human spirit remains free to choose its own response. This freedom does not diminish the reality of suffering, but it empowers us to find meaning in it. It is the freedom to respond with dignity, with purpose, and with resilience. This is where true liberation lies, in the ability to find meaning in any circumstance and to live in alignment with that meaning, regardless of external factors. In the context of spiritual prosperity, this inner freedom is the bedrock of our well-being. We are not defined by our circumstances, we are defined by how we engage with life, how we respond to pain and suffering, and how we choose to find meaning in all things. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to choose how we respond to difficulty. This freedom is what allows us to transcend adversity, to rise above our circumstances, and to find meaning and purpose. Even in the darkest of times, Frankl's insights remind us that our deepest freedom is rooted in our ability to choose meaning. It is through this choice that we experience true liberation. Liberation is not found in escaping hardship, but in learning to transform our response to hardship into a source of growth, wisdom, and strength. This freedom is what enables us to live with integrity and authenticity, regardless of the challenges we face. It is this inner freedom that aligns us with our deepest purpose and allows us to live a life of spiritual prosperity. Embracing the freedom to live with purpose, the ultimate form of liberation is not found in the ability to escape hardship or avoid suffering, but in the freedom to choose our response to the challenges we face. Viktor Frankl's insights teach us that meaning and purpose are the gateways to true freedom. When we choose to live in alignment with meaning, we unlock a sense of liberation that transcends the circumstances of our lives. It is through the conscious choice of meaning that we step into a life of spiritual prosperity, where suffering becomes a means of growth and challenge becomes an opportunity for transformation. Frankl's philosophy emphasizes that meaning is not external, it is something that we create from within. Even when faced with suffering or adversity, we have the freedom to choose how we engage with it. This power of choice is not a mere intellectual exercise, it is a practical tool that shapes the way we experience the world. The freedom to choose our attitude in every situation is what allows us to transcend difficulty and find meaning in the midst of pain. This inner freedom, the ability to choose our response, our perspective, and our sense of purpose is what leads to liberation. It is in choosing meaning that we break free from the chains of circumstance and rise above the limitations imposed by external forces. We are not defined by our circumstances. We are defined by how we choose to engage with them. This is the essence of Frankl's teaching, that meaning, rather than circumstances, defines our lives. When we embrace the freedom to live with purpose, we liberate ourselves from the existential vacuum, the feeling of emptiness and disconnection that arises when we lack meaning. Instead of feeling lost or adrift, we begin to actively create our own path, guided by our values and the sense of purpose that we define for ourselves. This process of purposeful living is not about escaping hardship, but about finding meaning within it. The pain and challenges of life, when viewed through the lens of purpose, become avenues for spiritual growth, rather than sources of despair. Living a life of purpose and meaning transforms us. It brings us closer to our authentic selves and helps us connect with others on a deeper level. Meaning is not something we find alone. It is something we share through our relationships, our work, and our actions. When we live with purpose, we create a ripple effect that extends beyond ourselves and touches the lives of others. This interconnectedness is a key component of spiritual prosperity, the understanding that our lives are part of a greater whole, and that the meaning we create within ourselves contributes to the meaning we offer to the world, as Frankl demonstrated. Meaning is not an abstract concept. It is a lived experience, something we engage with daily. It is through small, consistent choices that we shape our lives. Purpose is cultivated, not in grand moments of success, but in the quiet, everyday acts of love, kindness, and responsibility. It is in the way we approach each moment, in the way we choose to engage with the world, that meaning is created. To live a life of spiritual prosperity, we must constantly reflect on the meaning we give to our experiences. We must choose meaning in every moment, even in the face of suffering or difficulty. This does not mean that life becomes easy, nor that suffering disappears, but it means that we are empowered to find meaning in every experience and to use that meaning as the foundation for growth, transformation, and connection. The ultimate liberation comes when we accept that we have the power to choose meaning. When we embrace this freedom, we no longer feel trapped by life's circumstances. We no longer feel defined by our pain, our setbacks, or our limitations. Instead, we recognize that we have the ability to choose how we respond, and that in this response lies our true freedom. As Frankl so profoundly taught, meaning is the key to true freedom. It is in the act of choosing meaning that we free ourselves from despair, from emptiness, and from the suffering that would otherwise overwhelm us. When we align with meaning, we align with purpose, and in doing so, we find that true prosperity is not something we chase, but something we create by living in harmony with our inner truths. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into the profound teachings of Viktor Frankl and the transformative power of meaning, we arrive at a simple yet profound truth. The journey of finding meaning is lifelong, ever-evolving, and deeply personal. It is a quest that asks us to examine not only our external circumstances, but also our internal worlds. The choices we make, the attitudes we hold, and the relationships we nurture all contribute to the life of purpose and fulfillment we seek. Meaning is not something to be found externally. It is something we create from within. Each of us has the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges, to find purpose in suffering, and to engage with the world in a way that reflects our deepest values. This choice is the ultimate freedom we possess, and it is through choosing meaning that we unlock the true potential of our lives. Spiritual prosperity is not measured by the wealth we accumulate or the accolades we receive. It is measured by our ability to live with meaning, to align with our true purpose, and to experience the world through the lens of love, connection, and growth. True prosperity is rooted in resilience, purpose, and inner peace, and it is achieved not by avoiding adversity, but by choosing to find meaning in every aspect of life. As we move forward, let us remember that the quest for meaning is ongoing. It requires us to reflect, to choose, and to live with intention. The lessons we have learned through Frankl's insights remind us that even in the darkest of times, meaning is within our reach. It is through purposeful living, meaningful relationships, and our responses to suffering that we create lives of abundance, not the abundance of material wealth, but the abundance of connection, fulfillment, and peace. This book is not just an intellectual exercise, it is an invitation to live meaningfully. It calls us to step into our inner freedom, to choose how we respond to the world, and to find the purpose that gives our lives true meaning. May you find the courage to embrace your own journey of meaning and purpose, knowing that every choice you make contributes to the spiritual prosperity that awaits you.